Okay, let's route this rabbet in some grooves and finish making the hexagonal box. In a previous video, I used the adjustable miter box to make the 60-degree cuts on the lid pieces. Look at this clean cut. This gives us the 120 degrees that form the sides of a hexagon. I also cut the tall pieces to make the body of the box. I'll leave the links in the description. But since the wood was warped, I left it pressed with strap clamps for a few days. You can see that I shimmed the joints in the center with some cardboard. There we have the body of the box and what will become the lid. I need to route the grooves and the rabbet for them. Okay, I'm going to align the cuts of this large piece with the cuts of one of the lid pieces. And I measure how far it sticks out at the front. The thickness of the wood, minus that measurement, is the width of the rabbet I need to make. In this case, it is about 7 millimeters. I will make a rabbet 14 or 15 millimeters high. Now, this straight router bit has an 18 millimeter diameter. I move the fence to 0, centering it exactly on the router bit. I advance it 9 millimeters, half the diameter of the bit. Now it is perfectly aligned with the outer edge of the router bit. From here, I count 7 millimeters backward to set the width of the rabbet. There it is. Very precise, but I prefer to fine-tune the rabbet size later. I close the fence a bit, and that plastic piece is no longer necessary. Well, maybe it would have been better to route all the pieces at 3 or 4 millimeters first, to remove material, and finish the 7 millimeters in a second pass. Now I have put another router bit, a 4 millimeter one. I will route the groove for the panel 10 millimeters from the edge. From 0, 2 millimeters are the radius of the router bit. I add 10 to reach 12. This way, I will route the groove 10 millimeters from the edge of the wood. Well, I should have routed to half the depth, and then finished to the final depth in a second pass. Routing the depth in 2 passes probably also helps avoid the wood getting stuck during routing. Rushing is never good. Okay, we see the panel fits very tightly. That's not a problem. I loosen one side of the fence and rotate it by 1 millimeter. And I say rotate because I leave the other side of the fence as it is. This way, I'll widen the groove by roughly half a millimeter. Well, I think this works for me. I want to make the groove on the lid pieces about 2 centimeters from the top edge. I thought this would be easier to clean, but no. Cleaning the groove on all the pieces was a hassle. If I'd cleaned the first one right away, I'd have routed the rest in 2 passes. I adjust the grooves. Just a little more. I sand all the pieces and the routed sections thoroughly. And as you know from a previous video, I tightened them again, shimming them to try to straighten them. All right, a couple of days have passed and it seems the pieces are finally flat. Here they are, ready for gluing. Or so I thought. You can see that the strap clamp pressure left some marks on the wood. I don't think they'll be noticeable once the box is finished, sanded and varnished. Here, I placed the tape right at the edge. And over there, I left it sticking out. Honestly, I could skip this part and not tell you anything. But I know you like it when I make mistakes. Here I was all set to finish the project. When suddenly I realized, I didn't make the hexagonal bases for the bottom and the lid. Luckily, I remembered just in time. Time to clean the wood glue, first with a dry tissue, and then with a damp tissue. As I said before, rushing is never good. That's why we saw how I calculated and made the hexagons in the previous video. Here are the hexagons. I drilled a hole in the center of the lid hexagon to attach a knob. I gave them a couple of coats of white paint. A first coat, a light sanding, and a second coat. I only painted the inside of the base hexagon. The lid hexagon is painted on both sides. Now I apply the wood glue. And assemble the box body. I tighten the pieces firmly. And clean the excess wood glue with a damp tissue. I make the lid. And wait for the wood glue to dry properly. Now I see the lid doesn't fit. It won't go in. That is what I expected. I adjust the router table to the exact width and height of the rabbet. I move the fence about 1 millimeter. And go over all the rabbets again. The mitered joints on the box turned out pretty decent, considering I made the miter cuts while the wood was warped. This specific joint turned out a bit open, but that's because of the hexagonal lid, which I see is touching the bottom of the groove. I should have checked it better before gluing everything together. I apply some wood filler to the joints. Sand everything thoroughly. Now it fits. Apply a coat of varnish. I let it dry, a light sanding, and a second coat. Once the varnish is dry, I attach the knob to the lid. And here we have a beautiful hexagonal wooden box. I think it could make a lovely sewing box. Thank you for watching the video. And if you like my videos, thanks for subscribing to my channel.